Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the podcast. And if you're watching live, obviously we are on YouTube and Facebook, and feel free to ask us any questions. Today I am with James Murphy, who is a fellow serviced accommodation host and operator, and we are, I think, very much aligned. We're both on this scaling mission, it seems, and chasing down multiple units and seeing how big we can get. So I think this is going to be a great episode for everyone that is wanting to get into service accommodation or understand how to scale a business. So first and foremost, James, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. Looking forward to chatting today and just seeing how we can give some value to the people listening in. It's going to be good.
Sure. So let's start. I think, like most people, they want to know where you started. How did you get into it? And I think that's always a good place to start these podcasts when you've got new guests on. Just give them a bit of a short intro of who James is, how he got started in this industry, and why, really.
Yeah, it's good. So to keep it real brief, we moved back from Australia 3 years ago. We own property in Australia. We spent a lot of money moving over here, didn't have much left in the bank, and wanted to do something with property here in the UK. We had about £5,000 of savings left over, and we kind of got tuned in through a friend to this whole concept of service accommodation and making money from properties that you don't own. So we like the idea. Steph's got an interior design background, and that's my wife and business partner. And so we decided that we'd give it a go. We took out a 10K loan, and it was a very normal start to the journey. We used a sourcer to find our first two properties. Nothing spectacular, nothing out of the ordinary. And really it kind of got a little bit more exciting after that. So we got two properties in Sheffield. They're in a block of 11, and that block was a new apartment block, just a small development. And there were still 4 other units on top of the 2 that were vacant. And so once the first 2 got up and running, they were cash flowing, they started making money. We got a proof of concept, and we decided to approach the landlord to see if he'd give us the other 4. So we managed to get him over the line on that. So we went from 2 to 6 in the first 8 weeks. And then the following month, I had the idea of why don't I try and convince this landlord to give us a lease option on the whole block. So I put the offer forward. It went back and forth. It was complicated, but to cut a long story short, we got that over the line and agreed a below market value lease option deal with a 5-year option to purchase. So we now had that whole block, and that place has cash flowed for us between £6,000 and £10,000 net a month ever since we kicked it off, all through the pandemic, and has been one of our best performers. And that's really where our model kind of kicked in, that we now are in full swing with, because I realized, well, we've just like rapidly grown from nothing through this strategy of taking multi-unit. And so we then basically started doing the same over and over, and finding opportunities that we could essentially do the same thing. So we got 25 in Manchester. We grew from 0 to 100 in year 1, and again doubled in year 2. And we're now sort of in the kind of 200 to 300 zone. We'd be 300 already if there wasn't delays to projects and developers that we're working with. And we've got a staff team of 39 staff, I think, now. So it's come a long way. It sounds a little bit fairy tale-ish when you paint it like that, but lots of challenges, lots of headaches along the way, growing pains and all of that. So it's been good though. On the whole, it's been fun. So
yeah, it's funny because you start off. I mean, you obviously went straight into the block stuff, but the minute you get a taste for blocks with service accommodation, you realize how powerful they are, and that's kind of where my focus has been probably for the last year. Obviously, I'm currently developing a block of 16, working with a few developers on other blocks, and I think it's just the ease of operation as well as the economies of scale that you get with blocks. So how come, obviously, 6 weeks into your journey, and all of a sudden you're proposing a lease option on a block that's probably worth a few quid? How did you know to do that?
Yeah, I think when I talk with people like friends that have known me for a long time, they sort of say to me, James, your sort of superpower is your ability to take risks. And I think that that's something that I've always kind of looked at an opportunity and stepped into it rather than be afraid of it. Could I 100% guarantee that it was going to perform? I was probably too inexperienced to have that level of confidence, but I backed myself that I could kind of go all out to make it work and find a way to pull it all together. And obviously my wife and business partner played a big part in that. We've kind of always gone fairly high standard with our properties as well, which I think has been a game changer in like going through the pandemic and kind of being able to still sort of sit on the higher level of the percentile when it comes to occupancy and all of that. So like really, in some ways it was a little bit stupid. But it, you know, it's like any of these types of stories, it's almost always someone took a risk that other people aren't willing to take, and it either pays off or it doesn't pay off, you know. And thankfully we landed on the side of the fence where it worked out, you know. And
I think mindset's huge in this game, which a lot of people don't give enough credit for. And, you know, having, you know, I think our stories are very similar. And I think as personalities, we're probably very similar. You know, my appetite for risk is huge. You know, I'll take on pretty much anything because I think, as you say, you back yourself to make it work. And if it's not working, you'll figure a problem. You'll solve your own problem and you'll figure another option out. Sure. So who's your, obviously, you know, you do kick them out quite nice. Who's your ideal avatar? Do you chase down an ideal avatar for who's in your blocks?
So it is a little bit dependent on, you know, on the location and what's, you know, what the context is. But I'd say generally speaking, we're catered more to corporates than, you know, the whole contractor thing's a big thing right now. Because of the block setup, we can take big contractor deals. And, you know, I'm of the opinion, you know, I think there's a whole side of the fence of like houses are the way to go, contractors are the way to go. Whereas I feel like we can take bigger contracts with contractor teams because we have the ability to house 20, 30, 40 contractors in one place, you know. But I'd say predominantly it's a corporate market. We have a lot of, you know, again, there's a lot of argument around 1 beds versus 2 beds versus houses. 1 beds for us are like our bread and butter. We make serious money out of 1 beds. And, you know, you can say, oh, well, you can make £2,000 net from a house. But the reality is the house is probably going to cost you the same as it costs for 3 1 beds to set up. So it's one of those, it's again, mindset and perspective. So, you know, that I'd say across the board, with the exception of our like very touristy coastal locations, that it's predominantly corporates, and then like weekend leisure, you know.
Yeah. I think we haven't really. I saw we're recording this on March the 24th. We haven't really seen any weekends for about a year now, almost to the date. And but we're certainly seeing them creep back a bit. I don't know whether you're experiencing the same, but before, you know, if by the time this goes out, it will probably be after April the 12th because we've got a few podcasts banked up. So I think that's going to be a big date for us all. And I think once that, I actually just was with a friend before, and we were talking about, you know, everyone's going on a pub crawl on April the 12th, Monday. You know, it's like just something that people wouldn't normally talk about.
I'm just going to be watching our occupancy, our bookings, and just going, thank you for this. Like, been too long, you know. I mean, we've been pretty good, but it's just going to be nice, you know, to see things kind of normalize, and maybe be better than normal for a while as well, which would be good.
So I think obviously a lot of the listeners, a lot of questions we get as kind of mentors is, you know, how do you find the deals? You know, that's always one of the burning questions. And I think there's a lot of steps after the deal, as you've said, putting the agreements together, the mindset to take the risk on all that sort of stuff. So what's your process look like? What did it look like at the beginning to find the deal, and how has that evolved to where you are now?
Yeah. Interestingly, like in the early days, we kind of had like, I believe in the power of relationship and relationship building, you know, and in those early days, like honestly, I can say that word of mouth connection from like one developer to another developer, or an agent to another agent, really helped us like gather momentum in those early days, just by being high quality in our approach, really professional, and just trying to stand out from like the kind of standard cowboy approach, that often people can jump on the bandwagon. They hear a few YouTubes and they go out there and try and get stuff done. And that, that can work. But I think being a little bit more considered, really thinking through your approach, your brand toolkit, presenting yourself really well, making sure there's excellence to what you do. And I've got a good story, actually. I was doing a strategy call a couple of days ago, and this person said, I heard about Opulent Living 2 years ago. And I was like, well, I don't really know how you heard about Opulent Living 2 years ago, because we were literally just getting started. Like, we were a little dot, in the big world that we live in. And he said, well, interestingly, about 2 years ago, I went to a PIN network, and there was an estate agent that had been asked to come and speak at the PIN network on how to approach agents if you want to get a rent-to-rent deal. So that was like the kind of foundation of the talk. And she basically held up a leaflet and a business card and a gift that had been given to her, and said, this is the kind of if you even want a chance at getting, on side with the agent, you at the bare minimum need to have a brochure that looks like this, a business card that looks like this, and a gift being given like this gift will just put the cherry on top. And she was holding up our Opulent Living flyer, my business card. I didn't even know that this happened. Like, this is the first I found out about this 2 days ago. But it just goes to show that's how we started. And now 2 years later, we are where we are. And I think that professionalism, high standard that we've kind of tried to weave into our journey throughout. Sometimes we fall short. We're not perfect, But I think that was a game changer. And then just building those relationships. So sewing into the agent, sewing into the developer relationships. I try to graduate, relationships. If you're working with a developer, maybe you start off talking to someone on the lower end of the hierarchy, and then we try and get in touch with maybe the asset manager, and then eventually in touch with the director. Take them, obviously can't do this in COVID, but take them for dinner or lunch or whatever. Make sure you pay the bill, make sure you're on the front foot, and just really trying to establish key relationships. I call them like £1 million relationships. Obviously that's can feel a little bit far-fetched for someone that's just trying to get their first deal over the line. But I think the power is in just valuing relationships and having a real professional approach.
Yeah. I think, a lot of people think that, you just ring an agent up when you get a deal. It's, but I think the agent route is always a lot harder than going direct to the source, because you've got a third party you've got to consider as well. So, and I think too many people discredit agents completely. They just give them all sorts of names, and but a lot of agents aren't interested in what we do, and they will give you the cold shoulder, and they won't even entertain it. But it's about, as you say, trying to get further up the food chain of those agencies, and then making them realize what's in it for them. So you're you operate all across the UK now, or is it still predominantly around south?
Yeah, I mean, the weight of our portfolio is actually up north. So not as far north as you, but
so down south then.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got our biggest city is Sheffield. We've got about 60 units in Sheffield. Then I think it's probably a split between Birmingham, Manchester, and Liverpool, around sort of 30 to 40 in each of those cities. And then we're down south in Exeter and Torquay, places like Oxford, Cambridge. So it is top to bottom. And got a big deal coming through in Peterborough, starting to crack now into London finally, where you can't, if you're called Opulent Living, you kind of need to be in London, So we're finally making that move and feel like it's the right time for that. So we've got something already signed up in Oxford Circus, right near the station, which is going to be very exciting. And then hopefully later in the year, something near Spitalfields as well in London. So yeah, good spread all over.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And are you developing yourself now for your own portfolio, or are you still just kind of working with developers and managing the units for them?
Yeah, I've actually just I've just hired a head of construction, and we're forming Opulent Construction, and we've got quite a few projects going on. We're completing as we speak on a piece of land, and we've just bought an additional piece of land next door, and we're doing 24 properties in Southport. That's going to be a block of 10 apartments, a block of 8 apartments, and then 6 4-bed houses. So that's going to be very exciting. It's like a little estate, you know. So really looking forward to that. We're doing something in North Wales, office conversion to 6 apartments. We're just buying a hotel in Scarborough and doing a conversion of that as well into self-contained apartments, and a few other sort of 3 or 4 type things in Torquay, Scarborough. So yeah, some good stuff happening from that point of view. And
do you ever because I always feel like I will end up there. Do you ever feel like you're going to own a hotel at some point?
Yeah, I mean, it's in a way our whole, and it's good, you know, for us to kind of rub shoulders on this stuff. But the concept of what we built was kind of sparked by a company called Meriton in Australia, and I did 10 years in Sydney, and Steph's Australian, and they basically build big towers, and they do like the top floors all as service apartments. Then they have some resi, and then at the bottom they do like really high level amenities like beautiful swimming pools and gyms and restaurant and all the rest of it. And I kind of like to do something like that at some point, you know. I just feel like it's a little bit missing in the UK, that kind of high quality, especially outside of London. So
yeah. It's I just feel like the more your journey goes, you keep getting like bigger blocks and bigger, and then eventually, I think you probably would look. I just feel like at some point I will have a hotel with a bar downstairs and all that sort of stuff. I think that's just the natural progression point where you're going to go with this, because it's not that different to run. We are effectively running hotels all over the place. We just don't have the concierge at the front desk really, and the bars downstairs. So how what's the game plan for 2021? Is it just much of a muchness, or has anything kind of changed for you?
I think obviously we're doing a lot more development, so that's a big, you know, from my point of view, I'm really having to kind of put time into that. So I've really tried to build the team out around me so that the SA side of things is rolling. Like I run an exec team on a Monday. I do a touch base on a daily basis with my key guys, but outside of that, I'm not really involved that much in the functional elements of the SA side of things. And so I've really been freeing myself up to really learn development. Obviously building a team for that as well, but I want to understand it fully start to finish. And our Southport project's quite complex anyway, with the land and remediation that we've had to do and all that. So that's been like a nice introduction, not something that's kind of complex and requires you to really kind of think it all through. So there's that side of things. And then I think we're really trying to, similar to you, scale the coaching and education side of things as well, and just help a lot more people, get the message out to a lot more people. And I think it can benefit, the sector can benefit from people that want to do property education right as well. And so that's something that I'm like really dialed in on. Like I want to bring impact in the property sector, but to have the value, people walk away and go, you know, that was money well spent. I got the return, you know, and there's no sense of I was ripped off by James Murphy, you know. And and that's kind of what I'm wanting to really kind of move forward on. We've got a warehouse now. We're moving towards potentially like soft furnishing packages and all that kind of thing, and actually like selling, you know,
just adding that in. Yeah,
just like another kind of element.
String to your bow. Yeah. I think that's the great thing about the property game we work in. SA offers, if you think about like an SA business can be rent to rent SA, managed SA, owned SA, development to SA.
Yeah.
You can have a cleaning and linen business, which just services that. You can have a furniture business.
Yeah.
7 just in like within the space of SA, and then you can have your coaching side of it as well if you get the experience. There's 8 businesses within one of just getting going with serviced accommodation, and I think that's why I'm hugely passionate about. Do you have any tenants?
As in like long term,
just AST tenants?
No. I don't. I mean, it's something that I think there's a major gap in the UK estate agency world, so it is something that's there for me, whether that's a 2021 or a 2022 or whenever it ends up eventuating. But I think we're again quite similar. I can't, if there's an opportunity to build out another stream and make something work that kind of ties in to the overall theme of property world, then I kind of want to give it a go, so I definitely feel like estate agency, it amazes me that people can sell multi-million-pound properties and like their clothing is like strewn over the bed in the background of the photos. And I'm like, how does it equate? You're trying to sell, a property that's worth millions and you've not even spent a few £1,000s on making it look half decent, and so I just think, we're used to Australia where you do an open house, it's immaculate, it's been staged, the photos all look unbelievable, and 50 people show up to do the open house, and you got people fighting over the property. And so I think there's a lot of room to do something there. So I feel like whenever we chat, Ryan, you give me ideas and I give you ideas, and it's like
yeah, it is a bit like that. But I think we're both on very similar paths, from start to finish. And I think naturally, it goes that way. Do you see yourself doing SA abroad?
100%. Like that's again the whole concept of opulent living. I feel like we're not anywhere near the level of opulent that we're kind of long-term aiming for in terms of the stuff that we want to do, and you have to do it in stages. You can't just go all out and build like a golden hotel overnight. It's got to happen over time. But I think I like the idea of doing like big houses in key European locations, but like really nice stuff. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see where that goes. I definitely think that we're talking with a developer in the USA at the moment. Obviously, I've got a big background in Australia, and the short-term rental world is very big in Australia. We both, even my kids have Australian passports, so that's an easy. We own property there. It's kind of logical that we do something over there at some point. So.
Yeah, I think it's really, you touched base on it before, and I'm in a similar position now myself where we don't get involved in the operations of our SA businesses, and I certainly wish I did that a lot sooner. And but you are where you are. But I think I say it all the time, like success leaves clues. So for anyone listening, and you are currently running your operations of your SA business, you want to be making plans to get out of that as soon as you possibly can, because then it allows you to focus on the higher level executive type stuff, which moves your business forward so much quicker.
100%.
And getting tied into the SA stuff. But it's hard to let go, right?
Yeah,
it's hard. I mean, what's your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough when you give something to someone and obviously you have your way and your expectations of what it should look like, and there's that kind of trust dynamic, and then allowing them to kind of spread their wings and flourish. But I've always been very much on the extreme side of, if there's anything that I'm doing that's taking my attention from the stuff that's going to drive the business forward in terms of vision and acquisition, then I'm going to hire someone, So, and it's the same thing now. I've moved to development, and I've started finding myself filling out I almost swore because it annoys me so much. But
sorry, you can swear on this podcast. It's fine.
Well, it's, you know, filling out so many mortgage applications, and I've gone like, I need to hire someone I trust to just fill out my mortgage applications, because this is becoming like a bloody full-time job, you know. So anything that starts to take my time away from the stuff that I love doing, and, you know, and building relationships and acquiring stuff, I get that in place pretty quickly.
Yeah. No, I'm saying I had 3 remortgage applications yesterday, and I mean, it's so backward, the system. Like, you've got to write board minutes to yourself, like, and you're the only director of the company, and you have to have a board meeting with yourself, document it, and sign it. It's like, it's just such a waste of time. But that's probably one of the only bits that I struggle to get away from, is the application side and the solicitors type side of your purchases.
It's tough, because it's the sort of thing that you need someone. You don't want to just give it to anyone in the company, getting exposure to like all of your lending, and your, you know, you kind of need someone that you can trust to like put your signature down and things like that, you know. And obviously it's got to be with your oversight and your full permission, but it's very difficult. I've actually, my sister is coming on to do that for me, which makes a big difference. She's actually got a background in sort of finance as well.
Yeah. But it's also not a full-time job, so like, you kind of, you know, it's not like, it's not every day you need to do these type of application, but when it does happen, it seems like your world's ended and you can't really do anything else, and then you get asked really stupid questions to like send documents that you've sent a million times before, and, you know, it just like frustrates the hell out of you. But
the conveyancing process has taken so long that you now have to resubmit everything that you sent like 2 months ago, because they've just taken so long to. So anyway, there are frustrations there, but I think I'm hoping that it does become a full-time job, that we're buying that many properties.
You know? It's never a bad thing. So I think so for me, because I am quite an impatient person, I always want everything done yesterday. So I'm struggling with the length of time these developments like take to even sort of, you know, get planning through, or, you know, we're looking at stuff and I'm thinking, well, it's going to be like 4 months before I can even start that, or 5 months, you know. And for me, that frustrates me a bit, because I want to move a lot quicker. And so, but I do think the development is kind of like, once it's in the pipeline, and I think once you've got past that initial sort of lag time, then hopefully you'll just go from one to another to another to another, and that's kind of what we're working on at the minute. Because
actually, if I can jump in on that, Ryan, and this, like, and you're probably already thinking along this way, but we're kind of trying to do 3 types of purchases. So the first is like an 18-month bigger project. Obviously, that you just have to go through that.
Look it up and go through it,
but obviously you get the reward of hopefully a decent development profit, etc., GDV uplift. But the second is like kind of mid-length project, so like a conversion of a house to 4 apartments. It's hopefully going to be like 6 months ish, and then we're buying like blocks, smaller blocks that are already done, so we can basically just taking the hit on the uplift to go, I want cash flow right now, you know. So doing those types of purchases. So we've just done one in Torquay for 4. We're doing one in Scarborough for 3, and that way we're going to get the boom, you know.
I think the good thing about, I mean, I'm exactly the same, and to throw in there as well, we're looking at like permitted development stuff as our quicker strategy as well, because you can almost go straight away now. But I think one thing that I am noticing a lot of, when you get on the commercial journey, obviously the commercial estate agents, they're totally different, I find, to the residential, because they probably don't have an abundance of customers like you do in the residential sort of space, and the buy-to-let, smaller buy-to-let stuff. So that when they see you as a good client, they start throwing a lot of stuff your way. I've been viewing stuff and then doing the numbers, and we like speak to the agents, and they're like, oh, well, everybody else that's been through has just said it doesn't work, and that's because they run them as an AST, you know, whereas we're looking at them at the higher ROI, you know, the higher cash flow. So we might be getting a bit more money stuck that would put a normal AST investor off, whereas we're actually getting that cash out a lot quicker because of the uplift of service accommodation. So we're spotting, I'm certainly starting to see those gaps really appearing as we, you know, as I embark on this more and more and analyze more and more deals. So I think it will become we'll all of a sudden have a lot of stuff on the go. I mean, we've got offers in now on 4 things now. We've got 2 agreed. So, you know, but it is just that lengthy process that just frustrates the hell out of me.
Yeah. And I think as well, you know, when it comes to like crunching the numbers of a deal, it is that's part of why I've hired, it's actually my brother-in-law and my sister. So my brother-in-law has got a strong builder background and has been running like a plumber building business for the last 15 years. And, but he's kind of been like sole trader vibe. And I kept like sowing the seed for like the last like 12 months of like, you need to like, there's a lot more money over this side of the pond, you know? And so eventually he kind of gave in, and now he's starting with us at the beginning of April. But it's basically, you lose 30% in the build, you know? Well, in the build cost, there's a 30% markup, you know? So if you can, not many people are going to be up for it, but if you can build out a construction arm of the business, it does massively change the viability of deals, you know, because you're saving 30% on the build. So that's something that we're not going to do it straight away on these like first projects, but we're going to start. You know, Sean's going to manage all of the contracts and kind of project manage it, and then we're going to move towards potentially building a team in house and kind of see how it goes. But obviously, that's like, we'll see how it goes. But I think it is tough to get the right deals, but cash flow from SA changes the game. Like, do you need to make 100 grand if you're going to make 10K a month profit from a few apartments, you know? So it does alter how you look at things, which I think is a great thing to kind of throw in the mix.
Yeah, no, I think it does open up a lot of opportunities. And then when you start speaking to developers who've got stuff on the go about, you know, I've been running a few deals for a few developers I've been networking with, and you know, it sparks their interest, shall we say, because you also think that because they're a developer, they know all about serviced accommodation and they know about all the sort of tax benefits and everything that goes with it. But quite a lot of them don't. They like literally know nothing. They've just built blocks over years and then they've rented them out to tenants, or they've flipped them straight on, and they've made, you know, gains on potentially just planning gains, things like that. But when you start opening their eyes to SA, they're like, Jesus, like, why haven't I been doing this for like ever?
It makes a huge difference. And another one to throw in the mix is find developers that are happy to just build, because they might build the blocks for you, which means you can again scale a lot faster. I'm having conversations with certain developers right now where they're like, if you find the land, you know, and just present it to us, we'll build it for you. You lease it on a 10, 20-year deal. It's kind of what Travelodge and Premier Inn and all of those guys do anyway. So I can see you thinking now. You're like, so
no, there's so many ways to do it. I think, you know, you just got to. I think at the end of it, it comes down. My hurdle is not finding deals in this development space, because I know that's going to happen. It's going to become the funding of it, really, because you'll end up running out of. It doesn't matter how much money you've got in this game, you run out of money, you know. So, but if you can, you know, start. I think development probably brings in JV partners a lot more, as you say. There, you're going to potentially JV with a potential developer. You know, you're running quirky deals, and I think, you know, you can do it all yourself, but I think you can go a lot quicker by partnering with people and JV with developers and sharing. You know, they've got that wealth of experience, you've got that, and then you'll also do your own stuff by yourself as well. You know, so it all fits in. So,
and I think that's an important point. Is, you know, people go, oh, I'm HMO, and I get that you want to, you know, grow authority in one strategy, but at some point you have to realize, you know, especially if you're doing like buy, refurb, refinance and BMV deals, I think it makes a lot of sense to do rent to rent at the same time as, you know, BRR, because you got to wait 9 months before, really, in the current climate, it's 6 to 9 months before you're going to see light of day on any of that money back out. And it makes a whole lot of sense to run rent to rent alongside, where you can have a contract wrapped up in 5 days and be making money instantly. And I think that's kind of my attitude, is don't just be so like single focused and tunnel vision, but see that there's multiple ways to kind of build out revenue streams. and it makes you a lot more robust when you face a pandemic. You're not worried that your one income stream is going to be wiped out, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, my rent-to-rent business funded my assets. There's no getting away from that, you know, because I spotted that, you know, as you say, we were going through the slow process of a buy-let, and I was like, this isn't quick enough. And then stumbled onto rent-to-rent, and then just went all out acquiring loads of them. Still do it to this day. I'll still do rent-to-rent. I do it here and in Dubai now. You know, we're doing rent-to-rent in Dubai. So, you know, we've got that as a revenue because it moves quick and you can get cash flow quick. And then you use that cash flow to buy your assets. And then obviously, so you should always, I think within your business, you've probably got 6 or 7 different strategies across across 3 different terms, short, medium, and long, and then you just execute on them all and just keep pushing it. So what's the as we kind of wrap up here, what's the exit plan?
For me, honestly, like I don't really see an exit. Like I'm kind of like, how far can I take this? And I want to take it as far as I can take. Like I'm not trying to put my feet up. Like I don't go, if I can get a private jet, I'm done. You know, if I can buy an island, I'm done. Like I just go, as many people as I can impact, as many structures as I can build. You know, it's, for me, it's like legacy. Like how can you leave a mark on this world? And I love what Grant Cardone said once. He made the joke, my daughter's going to leave me one day, but my buildings are never going to leave me. They're mine for life. You know? And I just thought that was funny. And I just think, you know, I don't really believe in like retirement or autonomy. I think both of those things are elusive. And, you know, I think it's the freedom, isn't it, to just be able to do whatever you want, you know, which I think is like, let's take things down this direction. Let's try this new exciting way of doing things, you know. And when the money's there to do it, like the opportunity is endless. So yeah, I don't really have an exit plan, man.
I'll come back to you in 12 months on that one.
Yeah.
Let's see if it's changed any. But no, awesome. Listen, James, thanks for coming on. Obviously a wealth of knowledge. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can go James Z Murphy on Instagram, James Zachary Murphy on Facebook, jameszmurphy.com if you want to check out my website, Opulent Living UK.com. So there's a few different places. So cool.
Pleasure having you as always, and I'll no doubt speak to you, and I'm no doubt bumping into you on Clubhouse as well. So
thank you for having me, Ryan, because like, and this is serious. You know, we're competitors, you know, but I believe there's enough business for everyone, and so 100%. I like the fact that we're having this chat because, you know, I think we can fuel each other rather than being like trying to.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's why the world of property works so well, you know, because you can compete, but you can, as you say, like you can't buy all the property, I can't buy all the property. You know, so yeah, awesome, buddy. All right, thank you very much.
Right.
Take care.